Hello and welcome to the Glamptuary Podcast, where we talk about the experiential outdoor hospitality industry and glamping. I'm your host, Bobby Marsden. We are now in episode 12 of season 2 of the Glamptuary Podcast, which means we are back with Jesse Roesler and Open Air Outpost. Jesse is nearing the end of his journey on season 2, and last we spoke with him, he was preparing his tiny home and 18 acres of land in anticipation of booking his first guest. Spoiler alert, he booked that first guest, they stayed with him, and apparently their stay was amazing. In this episode, Jesse will talk about his experience and how he felt booking that first guest. He will read a heartfelt message that was sent back to him from that guest, and he'll talk about some of the learnings he's had with some additional guests that he's had stay at his property. So without further ado, please enjoy episode 12, season 2 of the Glamptuary Podcast with Jesse Roesler and Open Air Outpost. Hey Jesse, good to see you again.
Good to see you, Bobby.
So Jesse, last we spoke, you had some friends, family stay with you, got some feedback, you got a cheese grater and some other essentials inside the tiny home, and you were working towards your first official guest. So I'm assuming a congratulations is in order, correct?
Yes, we have had our first few official guests, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Congrats, man. I'm really happy for you. Well, let's step back in time. Walk us through the lead up to that first guest arriving. Obviously, they booked, I'm assuming, through your site, and you're leading up towards that date when they're going to arrive. You're a day out. You know, how are you feeling? What kinds of things are going through your mind? What kinds of things that you're doing to put the finishing touches on for their arrival? Walk us through what that was like for you.
Yeah, for me, I go to the parallel of, like, as a filmmaker, showing the rough cut of a new film to people for the first time. And it's your friends probably, right? Or family. And you have relationships, so they're not going to, like, tear it apart. They're going to be like, oh, that was really great. You know, even if they're like, oh, this part could use some. So, you know, like, I've come to expect that. So I'll often, you know, do test screenings now with strangers to get, like, you know, the really, you know, untarnished truth of, like, no sugarcoating. And so with this, it was kind of the thing where it's like, well, my friends have stayed here and they've raved about how great it is, but I know them. They like me. I like them. When you see a stranger's name come up and you're like, oh, I don't recognize that. It's a different feeling, right? And so you're like, okay, it's really game on now. So yeah, you know, once we had that booking, I think it was the day before, just went down and, like, you know, I've been you know, I get out there. It's not far from me. So I get out there you know, once or twice a week when I'm around in town, and just kind of look things over. But I went in with, you know, a finer tooth comb, and, like, the last few things were, like, you know, printing out, like, sort of the welcome packet and directions, and found, like, a nice leather bound to put that in. And then, like, a little leather bound guest book that people could just, you know, write a note, sign the sort of the guest registry, maybe a note about their experience, and put that in there. And then just went around and gathered a bunch of wildflowers, put that in a vase, and just wrote a nice handwritten note saying, hey, you're the very first official guest. It's a very meaningful stay. So we're so happy you're here. And, you know, shut the door, did the mental inventory, and drove off, and just, you know, let them have the place to themselves.
That's awesome. How did you work your interaction with your guests when they arrived? Was it like a keyless, touchless, everything is kind of set up and ready for them? Did you greet them? You know, how did that whole process work?
Yeah, so it is fully automated. There's just a number pad on the door, so they can let themselves in. We had been corresponding, our booking site, which is Lodgify, correspond through there. So we had created a Google Doc, which is, like, all the info you could ever possibly need to know about anything and everything, both on site and then, you know, things of interest, of course, nearby. And so they had that, you know, days in advance. So they, you know, it's like, if you have any other questions, let us know. We have someone helping us manage the property, the bookings, and, you know, if things come up, since I'm traveling a fair amount. So she's been wonderful. So she's the core interface. And then, you know, someone like this who stays and really has a great time, you know, I'm conversing with them via Instagram, right, as they're, like, messaging or posting or things like that. So, you know, there's a few different points of contact, but really it was like, we're going to give you, this place is all about nature immersion being, you're probably not going to see another human, while you're staying there if you don't want to, right? So we wanted to kind of honor that and just like give them the place. And it's like, yeah, if you have questions, contact us. If you need something, let us know. We can be there. But other than that, it was like, here's everything you need to know now. It's all yours.
That's great. How was their stay? Were you able to get some feedback from them?
Yeah, I was pretty floored because, again, it's with a stranger you don't know. And we also created a short, like 5-question survey on Typeform. We'll probably do it in perpetuity, but I want to do it at least for like the first handful of stays because we're so new at this. Just like tell us, A, what did you appreciate? What did you love? And then B, like, was anything missing? Was anything difficult, challenging, that sort of thing? But we got just like this really, really beautiful note that was just really thoughtful. He wrote sort of essentially kind of a review where they say, we were lucky to be the first official guest at the Outpost. My expectations were unusually high coming in, with all the photos that we saw on Instagram coming to our stay. And, we talked about how important photography is, but sometimes people can feel let down, right? Like if the photos are wanting to get them like, wait a minute. But he says, I was looking forward to the quiet and meditation of a cozy cabin in the woods. What I didn't expect was an entire experience, from the tunes on the turntable to the fresh wildflowers, the carefully curated books, both genre and color palette. I love the option to unplug and how technology was available without intruding on the feeling of everything. I haven't stayed anywhere with such a thoughtfully assembled vibe from top to bottom. The kayaks, the sunrise from bed, birdsong on the patio, swimming with a loon, and the serenity of the lake. We absolutely loved our stay and can't wait to come back. And the great thing about that is actually they are coming back and they'll be our first return guests. So they were our first guest ever. And now come November, they're going to be our first return guest. So that's pretty sweet.
Well, that sounds like a home run. I don't know if you could have done any better than that.
No, I was like, when I got that message, I'm like, oh man, he really, like, you feel seen, like in a way that you don't expect. Is like, we put so much thought and care and love into creating that. And it's like, there are a lot of little details that you're like, oh, they probably won't notice that. Maybe they'll just like subliminally like feel it. But like for him to actually call that out was pretty special.
Well, congrats. I'm excited for you guys. And have you had any other stays since that first stay, and how have those went?
Yeah, I think we've had probably 4 at this point, and all really well. The same. People have been leaving reviews right on the site because you can do that with Lodgify, not unlike Airbnb, and we've gotten, all 5 stars and like really nice notes. I think the one thing that was in process was like there's like steps down to the lake, and we just wanted to reinforce those and add a railing. So like that was I think the only thing that we've done as an update since then. But beyond that, I think it was just the cheese grater that was missing.
What would you recommend for people kind of now that you've been through this a few times of like how you might follow up with the guests afterwards to try and generate those repeat guests and things? Like, I know you're kind of new into this, but you're probably learning as you're going and maybe getting some ideas. What kinds of things have popped into your head is like, this, I should follow up and maybe this might work?
Yeah. So we're sure to send a note right after just asking, how was everything? If you'd like to leave a review, would you also answer this short survey to help us make this place better? And then we also we wanted to give people something to, incentivize. Like, we're so new, we want to get the word out. So we gave people both a referral coupon code to send somebody new to us for a percentage off a stay, and then also a return percentage off a stay. So clearly that worked at least one, if not both ways with this first guest. And hopefully those will prove fruitful too. And just, introducing more people to it. Yeah.
I think your follow through is crucial. Getting them in the door is one thing, and then getting them to come back, I think is what sets successful businesses apart from, something that might not be able to sustain itself. And speaking of, that growth, I think in the next episode, now that you have these stays under your belt, you're a veteran, maybe it's time to expand. I know that you're kind of working on some of that stuff right now, and hopefully you can get that off and running before the season's over. And I think I'd love to talk about that stuff in the next episode. But sincerely, congratulations on your first set of stays. The review that you got, honestly, I don't know how you could get a better review than that. It makes me even more excited to be able to get out there and visit it when I make it back to the Midwest. So congrats, Jesse. Job well done.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm excited that's where my head's been the last few days, is our next place people can stay on the property. So it'll be fun to talk about that.
Cool. All right. Well, I'll let you get back to it, and we'll talk about that in the next episode.
Sounds great. Thanks, Bobby.
I want to thank Jesse again for inviting me along on this journey with him. It's been really fun to see it all come to fruition and to hear how good everything is going there. I had no doubt, and I'm excited to hear what Jesse has in mind for the future of Open Air Outpost, and we'll cover that on the next episode. To follow along, you can do so on our website, which is www.glamptuary.com. Again, that is www.glamptuary.com. You can also follow along on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Pandora, and YouTube. We don't care where you follow us. We just ask that you follow. Thanks so much, and we'll see you on the next episode.